Half day and welcome everyone to Module 1, Microsoft Applications Basic. This video presentation will focus on Microsoft Word. It is being presented by myself, Trisha Cruz, and was prepared by myself and my colleague, Francis Bellahudja, for elementary teachers. We are both instructional coaches with the Guam Department of Education. This module is designed for teachers who have basic knowledge in Microsoft Word and would like to refresh or reinforce the basic functions. For beginners, this is a great place to start. After this, you could practice creating simple documents to use for the different models of learning. And for more advanced users, hopefully you can get some ideas on how to use this presentation as a way to teach using Microsoft Word to students and parents. Let's start off with a little question. What are the different documents you can create using Microsoft Word? I use Microsoft Word for creating reports, lesson plans, definitely, newsletters, certificates, flyers, and graphic organizers. I'm sure you have a longer list. I will be going into a demonstration using Microsoft Word. We'll go over getting started, how to open it, how to name and save a document. We'll take a look at the Home tab features, formatting your fonts and paragraphs. We'll also look at the Layout tab, margins, orientation, paper size, columns. We'll also take a look at the Review tab, spell check and grammar check. And definitely we will go over saving and printing the document. Opening Microsoft Word. Welcome to the demonstration part of this video. Let's start off with how to open up Microsoft Word. Here's what my desktop looks like. To open Microsoft Word, I'm going to go down to the Windows icon. It's located at the lower left corner. I'm going to click. When I do that, you'll see a listing in alphabetical order of all the different applications that's on your device. If you're fortunate like me, you may see the Word icon pop up, and you can open Microsoft Word by clicking here. If you're unable to do that, here's another option. You can go down again to the lower corner, click on the search button. In here, begin typing Word. Then you'll see all the different options. You can open Microsoft Word from here. Here's a note. Majority of the Guam Department of Education devices have Microsoft Office Applications 2016. That's what I'm working on today. I'm going to click here. It'll bring us to this new window. On the left, you'll see different documents that I've been working on using Microsoft Word. If I want to go to something I've been working on, I could simply find it here. Over on the right side, you'll find different templates that you can use to create different documents. Here's one of the calendar. We have some reports and resumes. Different things are available here. When you have time, go ahead and scroll through and see what's here. If you'd like one of these templates, all you do is click on it. It'll open up and just tweak it so that the content is what is to your needs. Notice the certificate here. This was in our slides in the opening. This is another available template. For this demonstration, I'm going to start from scratch, so I'm going to select blank document. This brings us to a brand new document page. Let's get familiarized with the different things you see on the screen. At the top here, this is called our title bar. Currently, I have not named it or saved it, so it's indicated as document 1. Along the top, when I click, these are different tabs. Every time I open a tab, it changes the ribbon. This is the ribbon that goes across. As I mentioned earlier, the main tabs we're going to focus on are Home, Layout, Review. We'll also be working with File menu options. On the ribbon, you'll see different commands grouped together by their functions. So this is considered a group, the clipboard group. This is another group. This is the font group. This is the paragraph group, and so forth. From there, you may want to take a look at the launch buttons. So if you click at the corner here, this is the launch button for the font group. By clicking it, you might be able to see additional features that you can do. On the top left corner, you're going to see a couple icons here. This area is called the Quick Access Toolbar. This icon is the Save icon. It's a picture of one of those floppy disks. Right beside it, it's not yet showing, but this is called the Undo button, or like one of my colleagues, Mr. Andrew Guerrero, likes to call it, it's the magic button. We'll be using that later. There's also the Refresh. Here is a drop-down menu, and you can actually add to your Quick Access toolbar all these different features. What the Quick Access toolbar does is it doesn't matter which tab you are on, these options are always going to be available for you. It's easy for you to find. Okay, so we went over the different areas on your screen. One more thing. On the bottom right corner, you'll notice a scale, if you will. As I slide it to the right towards the plus, or as I click the plus, it's going to zoom into my document. I can either drag it to the left or closer towards the minus sign, and I can zoom out. What you see here, this white sheet represents the paper or a page. So right now, this is one page. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little bit more so I can see my document and add a couple things here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to start typing the title of my newsletter, or the title of my newsletter, which is just Room C204 Newsletter, just to get something on my page. From here, we're going to go into how to save or name a document. Saving a document. There are two ways to name or save a document. I already started typing the title of my newsletter, Room C204 Newsletter. Why save now? It's good practice, and I want to name my document. So after I type this down, I'm going to go ahead and come up here. One way of saving is by clicking on that save icon, or I could click on File. I'm going to click on File, and it's going to take me to this other screen. This is the first time I'm saving this document, so I'm actually also naming it. I'm going to click Save. Because it's my first time, it'll automatically bring me to the Save As options. From here, I need to decide where I would like to save it. I'm going to click this PC, and on this PC, I can save it on the desktop, or if I look down lower, there are different folders that I have available that I could save it to. For this demonstration, I'm going to save it on the desktop. I'm going to click, then another dialog box opens up. If you notice, it still says Room C204 Newsletter. And because it's highlighted in blue, I can go ahead and rename it. So I'm going to name this document, newsletter 1. Another colleague of mine, Michelle Franquez, she is also doing this presentation for secondary teachers. Her tip when naming a document is to keep it short and relevant. Some people, like myself, if you're going to do a series of things like newsletters, you can put numbers. So it'll be newsletter 1, next month could be newsletter 2, and so forth. Some people may want to date it, August newsletter, September newsletter, and so forth. Then there may be times when you want to put something like newsletter 1 original. You might want to add on draft, final. These are just different ways you can name your items. But again, try and keep it short and relevant. Going over to how to save or what type of file you're going to save your document, you'll click in here, and by default, it's going to bring you to Word document. As teachers, the two main ways we save are between Word document and PDF. In the beginning, or while I'm building my document, I'm going to just stick to saving it as a Word document. When I'm all set, I'm going to click Save. Okay, if you take a look at the title bar now, it's changed to Newsletter 1. That tells me that I've saved my document. From here, I'm just going to add more content. That's the title of my newsletter. Then I'm going to have different sections. This is my first newsletter, so this is going to be the time when I introduce myself to my students and parents. So my next section will be, I'm just going to enter, and my next section will be Meet Ms. Cruz. This will be almost like a little introduction. I'm going to give myself some room. The next section is just going to be some personal information about me. I'm going to enter again. Here I'm going to provide some info on my educational background. I'm going to go ahead and go back, add some content for the different sections. Give me a moment, and I'm going to fill in the content. Through the magic of technology, I've added additional text and content under the different sections. I also added additional sections down here. So I have a My Favorites area and contact information. Being I added a lot of things to my document, I'm going to go ahead and save. And I'm just going to quickly do that by clicking on the save icon. From here, we're going to go into formatting. Formatting fonts. Formatting fonts. We'll be going over formatting the font color, the font face, the size, and font style. So every time I want to change something, all I have to do is highlight it. So all I'm doing is dragging my cursor over the text. The first thing I'm going to change is my title itself. And there's two ways you can format your fonts. After you highlight, there'll be a pop-up menu. Let's go ahead and change the font color. So you can either go here to use the items here on the pop-up menu. This is the font color icon. When I click on here, I'm going to click the arrow, a color palette pops up. As I scroll through the different colors, I can preview what it'll look like. So for my newsletter main header, I'm going to go ahead and keep it at blue. I'm going to click, and it changes it to blue. I'm going to click outside. Let's take a closer look. I'm going to come down and just kind of zoom in so it's easier on the eyes while we build our document. I'm going to go to Miss Cruz. I'm going to do this Same process for changing the font color. I'm going to highlight here. I can either use the font color that pops up. If it disappears, not to worry, it's up here at the top. Here's our font color button. Click on it. And for Meet Ms. Cruz, I'm going to go ahead and make this really dark navy blue. It's almost black. Click on there. So right now I've changed the font color, and let's go ahead and work on the alignment. We're going to center our main header. So again, I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to go up to here on the paragraph group. Right now, this is aligned left. When I click here, it's going to center it for me. So I'm going to click and it'll center. I'm going to do the same for each of the subheaders below. I'm going to change the color. After I've changed the color, I'm going to center it. Give me a moment while I work on the other subheaders. Take a look at what I've done. Again, I changed the font color of my main header and the subheaders, and I've also centered it. Now this time, let's go ahead and change the actual font face and the size of the main header and the subheaders. And to do that, for my title, I'm going to highlight it again. I can either select from the font menu that pops up here, and for my main header, when I click on it, I can scroll down and see what's available. For this, I'm going to go ahead and select Cooper Black. And I want this to be larger in size. So being it's still highlighted, this menu is still available. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to scroll down. Very similar to the colors and even with the font face itself. As I scroll, I can preview what it's going to look like. I'm going to keep it at 24 point. Here's Meet Ms. Cruz. For this section, I want my font face to match my paragraph. So I'm going to highlight this whole section. And from here, again, this menu will pop up. I can either select from here, or I can go to the top on the ribbon and select from the font group there. For the Meet Ms. Cruz section, I'm going to click here and I'm going to select Book Antigua. Looks cool. I'm going to click this. I'm going to do the same process for the different sections. Again, About Me, I'm going to highlight this whole section. I can go up to the top, click on the font face. For this one here, I want this to be Comic Sans. Let me just go back to my header or my subheader because it's the same size. I'm going to just click and keep clicking. This is another option. Instead of clicking and dragging, you can click until your whole section is highlighted. I'm going to make About Me, let's do 24. Let me go back to Ms. Cruz, and I'm going to make this at 20. Give me a moment and I'm going to do the same with the remaining parts of my document. All right, take a look at how I've changed the font in the different sections. I have Meet Ms. Cruz. The next section is About Me. As I had mentioned, this is Comic Sans. For my education. And the reason why, the purpose of me changing this is, again, this is my introduction newsletter. I kind of want to give a little bit of my preference or my personality, and that's why I'm just kind of changing the font. For my education, I used what's called Poor Richard. For my favorites, I decided to keep the subheader at Berlin Sans, which is slightly different from the listing that's under it, Corbel. And I just did this as a preference. And at the bottom part, here's contact information. I chose Goudy Stout, and down here I just kept it at Calibri. So again, we've pretty much formatted our fonts. Just going to add some what we call font style to different areas. So font style, I'm going to select Meet Miss Cruz. I'm referring to these things up here at the top: bold, italicizing, or underlining. So for Meet Miss Cruz, maybe I want to underline that. I would like that section underlined. About me, I'm going to make this bold. You can also select 2 styles or even up to 3 styles if you like. So while it's still highlighted, I have bold. I'm going to add italicize, and I'm going to add underline. You know, I'm looking at it. I don't like it. So we're going to use our magic button, also known as the undo icon. I'm just going to click the back arrow or the undo icon, and it goes back sequentially. It took off the underline. It took off the italicize. I think I'm going to keep the bold effect to it. Here's my education. Again, I'm just going to click the header. It also pops up right here. I'm going to underline this. My favorites, I think I will underline this as well, being this is a list that follows. And that's about it for now as far as, and this is on formatting fonts. We changed the font color, the font face, its size, and the font style. Formatting paragraphs. Here we're going to format our paragraphs. This is where we'll be discussing spacing, alignments, adding bullets to a section, and also using a sorting feature available on Microsoft Word. So I'm going to go ahead and select this whole section, and I'm going to work on the spacing here. I highlighted the whole thing. Up here under the paragraph group, I'm going to click on the spacing icon. And again, like everything else, as I scroll through, I'm going to see a little preview of what the different options give me. So for my document, I'm going to go ahead and keep everything at single space or 1.0. Something else I wanted to share with you is the computer is looking at Meet Miss Cruz and the paragraph as 2 different or separate paragraphs. I want to bring in the spacing between my subheader and my text a little closer. So while it's still highlighted, I'm going to go back up to that spacing icon, click, and I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom where it says remove space after paragraph. And if you notice in the preview, it's really tight now. So this is something I like. In addition to formatting my writing this way or my document this way, I'm going to go to the front and I'm going to indent my paragraphs. So I'm just going to click tab and it'll automatically indent for me. Now let me go ahead and go over alignment. I'm going to select my paragraph, just the text now. I don't want to include my header. I'm going to highlight my text, and I like content when it looks a lot to be justified, and it's right here on the top. Click justify. What this does is it brings everything on the left, it keeps it all straight, and it makes everything here on the right the same as well. I'm going to do the same thing to the About Me section. I'm going to highlight the whole section, go up here to the spacing icon, select single space. And then again, what I want to do is, now if you take a look, it's also going to, right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change between these 2 paragraphs. I don't quite want that. It's between this paragraph and my subheader. I'm going to click that, select that, click on the spacing icon, and I want to remove the space between About Me and the paragraph. So it brought it in closer. In the beginning of my paragraph, I'm going to click Tab so I could indent it. And here's my next paragraph. Click Tab and indent it. For my content here, I'm going to highlight the whole thing and again, justify. I'm going to do the same thing for education. Highlight the whole thing. Spacing, single space. I want to remove space after paragraph just to make it a little more tight. For my paragraph, I want to justify it. And in the beginning of my paragraph, I want to indent it. When I come down here to favorites, I'm going to try and do this quickly. Spacing, single space. Remove the space after paragraph. For this section, because it's not so much a paragraph per se, but it's more of a listing, I'm going to highlight this and I'm going to add bullets. Up here on the paragraph area, here's some bullets. If you click on the drop down, you can see different styles you can use. Maybe I want to start at this one. I'm going to click on that and see how that looks. I click out of it. I think, I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to try it, just the regular bullet. Here's the feature that I just learned recently with Microsoft Word. I was aware about it in Excel. I didn't realize it's here also in Microsoft Word. Let's say you have a listing of spelling words or perhaps a listing of your student names and you want to alphabetize it. Any kind of list you'd like to alphabetize, you'll highlight it. And again, up here in paragraph, there's a sort button. This button is also located in Excel. So I'm going to click here and it's going to help me sort it alphabetically. I already selected my area. I want to sort it by paragraph. It is text, it's not numerical, it's not numbers or anything. And I have a choice between ascending, which is A through Z, or descending, which would be Z through A. I'm just going to keep it here and I'm going to click OK. Originally, food was at the top, colors was at the bottom. Now it identified my listing here in alphabetical order. One last thing for our formatting of the paragraph. Click again here. I want to go to my spacing. Actually, I think I like how it looks at 1.5. I'm going to go ahead and keep it at 1.5. And let's get rid of, oh, see, it doesn't have any space after the paragraph. So I'm just going to keep it as is. And that's what I have for formatting a paragraph. Document layout. Okay, going over the document layout. So first and foremost, I've been adding different things to my document. I'm going to go ahead and save. And I'm just about done going over the different things I wanted to share on the Home tab. I'm going to now head to Layout. I'm going to basically stick with the Page Setup group. This is where some individuals like to start actually. They like to start in the layout section. Let me go ahead and zoom out so that we can take a look at our page. Just zooming out. All my information here. So for margins, I just click, scroll down. Unfortunately, it's not going to shift it for you if you'd like to take a look at how things look like. Currently, it's at 1 inch all around. Top 1 inch, bottom 1 inch, left and right 1 inch. If I wanted to see what it'll look like at 1/2 an inch all around, I could click here. That's what it looks like. I'm thinking I don't like it. Let me go ahead and use my back button or the undo button. For page orientation, this is where you'll decide between portrait or landscape. Again, I'm unable to preview, so if I want to just take a quick peek at what landscape would look like, I'm going to click there. If I'd like to, I could go ahead and keep this together in one section. I'm thinking, no, it's okay. Undo that. For size, this is where you would set up your page document. Sometimes as you're building your document, whatever it may be, you might want to go to legal, which is the longer sheet. For now, we're sticking to the standard letter, which is 8.5 by 11 inches. The last feature here I wanted to share is the columns button. So just taking a look at this, you can highlight a section maybe you wanted to add some columns to. So let's just highlight the favorites part. I want to see how that looks like if I had it in columns. I would highlight what I want, click here. Let's see what it'll look like in 2 columns. Click. I'm taking a look at it. Let me click out so we can get a better view. Oops. I'm thinking, okay, it's not too bad, but I don't think I want to keep it because I don't like how the information here is separated. So again, I'm going to undo. Here's something else you can try. You can highlight the whole document with the exception of your newsletter title, the whole document. Let's see what it'll look like if I make it into 2 columns. Just something to take a look at. So if I did it this way, I'm thinking it's not too bad. I just need to make some changes as far as my font size. Definitely here I'd need to shrink. That's a possibility. But for this demo, I'm thinking, nah, it's fine. I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Okay. Before I leave here, I'm just going to take a look at it, scroll a little more. I want to put some space between just to kind of stretch everything out again. Let me put a space between the title and Meet Miss Cruz. Maybe I'll go ahead and make this a little larger. Again, I'm just kind of adding more look to my document. And since I made it larger, maybe I'll go ahead and delete this here. Let me go ahead and save what I just did. Scroll down. Looks cool. So that's formatting our document or looking over our document layout. Finishing up. Okay, we are almost done with our document. I'm just going to scroll through, and you know what? I'm noticing that I kind of have a lot of space on my paper. I can go back and make different text larger if I'd like. Here's something I wouldn't mind doing. I'm going to click in the middle of my favorites and my education. I'm going to the Home tab. I'm on Center, and I'm just going to add, let me try this again. Center this, and I'm just going to add, I'm going to hold down the period key, and it's like adding in a line, I guess, if you will. Just kind of going to want to add to my favorites. And I want this to look like it's a part of the My Favorites section. So let me highlight that, change that color to purple to match. Let's go ahead and make it larger as well. That was at 11, 16, 14. 16 is not too bad. Let me go to the 16 and just backspace the I guess extra there. Let me go ahead and double click this. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to add it also towards the bottom of my favorites. Again, it's just kind of adding some visual appeal to my document. If you see here, it put it as part of the bulleted list. So I'm just going to click my cursor in front of it and backspace. And backspace again, there we go. Let's also make this tighter. So I'm going to click these two and check the spacing. Let's remove space after paragraph. Let's go ahead and add some room between this section and the other. It's just to add some more appeal to the document. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to our review tab. Again, I added some additional things there. I'm going to click save. On the review tab, so this is where I'm going to go when I'm just about finished. I'm scanning through, and I did notice some red squiggly lines, and I didn't notice a blue squiggly line, but we're going to go ahead and review our document. So I'm here on the review tab. I'm going to go ahead and highlight my entire document. That's just a thing I do. You could just simply click over to spelling and grammar. I'm going to go over to spelling and grammar, click there, and a pane on the right side will open, and it will highlight any possible errors or concerns that it's coming across. And it does this sequentially throughout the document. So the first concern is a grammar concern, and it's mainly concerned about how I use the word are. I'm just going to go back and read my sentence. This is where it's coming from. The computer will highlight it for you. It reads, my daughter's name are Aura, and she is 22 years old. Okay, yeah, that is a problem. So with this concern, I can either ignore the suggestion. It's actually telling me that, you know what, you can use the word is here. Or if I'd like to, I could change it. There's also a description here. So definitely I'm going to change it. I'm going to click here. And when I click change, it changed it already. My daughter's name is Aura. There you go, it's changed. And it takes me to the next spelling or grammar concern. So the next thing popping up is the spelling of my word tamaning. So here on Guam, right, we're going to have this probably several times. And I'm going to be using the word tamaning in a lot of my documents. Here are the different options. So again, tamaning, it doesn't recognize it. It actually gives me a couple suggestions that maybe maybe it's a misspelling of a word. So my choices are to ignore the suggestions, ignore all if the same thing is popping up throughout the document. I could change it to something here. So if I click change, it's going to automatically change to whatever is highlighted here. So if I were to click this and click change, it's going to change tamaning to this word. And the last feature we have is add. By doing this, it's going to add how I spelled this word to the database. So in the future, when I'm using Word and I type up the word tamaning and it's spelled correctly, it's not going to count it as an error. So I'm going to go ahead and actually add tamaning to the database. So now it's no longer incorrect. And it takes me to the next word of concern. Again, now it's Mingilao, and it's also considered a possible spelling error or concern. Here are my choices: ignore, ignore all, add, or change. So the computer is thinking I probably am going to want to add this to my database, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to click add. It goes on to the next possible error. Down on the bottom, it has pentatonics. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this group. This is an a cappella group, and they tend to be very creative with not so much your usual instruments, but they use, you know, different household items to come up to help them create sound. So anyway, pentatonics, I am actually going to just tell it to ignore it, just in case one day I decide I actually need to use this word here. So I'm going to tell it to ignore this spelling concern. It's going to jump over to Keali'i. That's a Hawaiian name. I've checked it over, it's correct, so I'm going to click ignore again. And this is Rachel. If you notice, it's actually suggesting, did I mean Rachel? Again, I'm going to ignore. Now it's telling me it's finished checking what I had highlighted, which was practically my whole document. Do I want to check the rest of the document? I'm going to click yes. It'll check if there's any more errors. If there are none, then this just pops up. It tells me the word count. There's also a running word count here on the bottom. This is at 240. Different information about my document. There's even some readability info here on the bottom. I can take a look at that. If it seems cool, I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to click save again, so it can save all those different changes or additions. And I'm about done. Which brings me to the last two things we're going to go over. The next part is maybe I'm going to want to print my document. I'm not going to find it in any of the tabs here, so I'm going to click on File. And I'm going to go to Print. From here, it'll open up another dialog area. I'm going to go through the different sections here for my settings. How many copies do I want? If I want 1 copy, I can keep it. I can type in if I wanted 5, or I could even use the arrow that's located here. Let's just keep it at 1. After that, I'm going to make sure, especially if you're on the department's network, I'm going to click here and make sure that I'm on the correct printer I want to send the job to. So let's just say I want to go ahead and use this printer. I'm going to keep it. Settings, I can click here. I can print the whole page. These are all the different options on the document. And before I forget, here's one more feature you can do. So our document is just 1 page. Maybe I want to, gosh, that'll really depend on the font size. But if I want to save paper and maybe I wanted to print maybe 2 pages on one sheet, I can do that just down here. Look for where it starts saying 1 page per sheet. And I have different options. If my font was bigger, then I wouldn't feel too bad about clicking printing 2 pages on the same sheet. So this is one option here. Someone actually provided us this comment in our eval, so I wanted to share that. Thank you for doing that, or for sharing that, so we can add that into the presentation. Again, if you would like to save paper, this is where you can go so that it'll send the message to the printer on printing multiple pages on one sheet. Okay. One last thing before I go out. Again, you're going to place all your settings as you'd like, and when you are ready to print, you press print. And as I was saying earlier, one last thing I'd like to go over is, let's go ahead and save this one last time as a Word document. So in the event I want to work off of this as a template, I can come here. I can make changes to it. For the sake of email or sending things out to others, I'm going to actually click on File and Save as a PDF. So instead of just clicking Save, I'm going to go to Save As. this PC, desktop. I can name it something else, but I'm just going to keep it as the same name, Newsletter 1. You can see it's on our desktop already, but now I'm going to change it to PDF. And what this does is, let me go ahead and save it. It's going to keep my formatting the same. What I can do is, as a PDF, I could send this via email to my students and families. So that way, when they open it up on their end, they don't have to worry about it, things moving all around. And this is saving it as a PDF. Okay, that brings us to our closing. I really do hope you've enjoyed this video presentation. Let's go ahead and get back to the slides. So here's taking a look at what our newsletter looks like before we made any changes to our font and the spacing. That's on the left. And then on the right is what it could look like when you just add some changes, again, with just your text, using periods, and different formatting options. A continuation of Module 1 for elementary teachers is being provided by my colleague, Frances Belahudja. Please be sure to check on that video presentation. She will be going over Microsoft PowerPoint and also Microsoft Excel. She's a wonderful presenter. I know you would enjoy it. Finally, closing out, practice using Microsoft Word. If there's any questions you have that you'd like to ask me about regarding what you saw today, feel free to email me. You can contact me. My email address is tlgcruz@gdoe.net. For those of you who are teachers on Guam, if you'd like a copy of the PowerPoint slides that also has screenshots with step-by-step directions, go ahead and email me and I can send that to you. Once again, thank you everyone, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.